Hey class, Brother Ogden here. So let's talk about segmentation ideas and kind of what segmenting an audience is and how to do it. Honestly, so when we've gotten into this project, paid ads project, it's a lot like kind of running Google AdWords. It's a little bit different. It's gotten more and more advanced over the years. In fact, more and more tools are being announced from the different channels on information and content to help us as practitioners of social media to kind of get better at our paid ads kind of advertising. So this is where, like, honestly, paid advertising is where the true power of social media comes into play. We can segment out an audience, and instead of kind of doing this blanket, well, I hope this gets to the right people. We can get really segmented and really understand an audience and then speak to that audience in a way that's going to connect with them and going to help us kind of drive better results. Think about it. Super Bowl, there's, people spend a lot of money, brands spend a lot of money to run ads on the Super Bowl, but basically it's because there's this large viewership. But that no longer is like the best way to advertise. Just because there's a lot of people on that platform doesn't mean necessarily it's the right people. And so now companies are experiencing better ROI, better engagement, or better basically ads by running and being able to target specific audiences. And that's what you guys need to do for this project. Is you're going to identify an audience, come up with ideas about how to identify that audience, and then from there, make that segmentation in the social channels, and then build your ads based off of that segmentation. So let's talk about Ray-Bans, for example. Ray-Bans, they're sunglasses. They also make glasses. Let's talk about their sunglasses line for a second, though. Ray-Bans, they're kind of higher end sunglasses. Depending on where you're buying them, they can range anywhere between like $80 and $150 or something like that, right? And so when we think of Ray-Bans, and this is kind of what you do when you set up your segmentation or start thinking about your segmentation, is you think of the general categories of that company or of that audience that likes Ray-Bans. And so when we think of the general categories of them, we think, okay, the main people that wear Ray-Bans are full-time sunglasses. So they wear sunglasses full-time, or they're seasonal wearers. Now these are probably a little bit more people that are well off, that have more money, they're seasonal wearers because they're going to be wearing kind of more expensive sunglasses, not like the Sunglass Hut or something like that, where it's like $10 for a pair of sunglasses, but something a little bit more expensive. So they probably have a little higher end kind of thing, or they're for sports, and it's kind of based off of people that wear a lot of sunglasses based off of the sport that they're playing, and whether or not that sport is required to have sunglasses or it works better to have something like that. Anyways, so as we look at Ray-Bans, this is an example of Ray-Bans, and as we look at this, we kind of have an idea already intuitively who would wear sunglasses like this, and I'm going to be speaking principally for the United States, kind of. It's a segment that I think most of the class will understand. Sorry if you don't get as much, but anyways, it kind of helps you out, and that's one of the segments that we actually need to talk about. There's 4 main segmentation categories, and the first one off the bat is geographical. When we think of geographical, we think of like country, climate, areas, customer needs based off of those areas, the climate, and the needs that the customer has. So that's the first main segmentation category, is our geographical. So when we think of this, and we look at, and I kept that image up at the top, when we look at that image and think of, okay, who would use this, we might think, generally Northwest, kind of hippie, kind of trendy kind of people. The climate is more seasonal kind of wearing. I mean, we got California too in there. We tend to see that kind of stuff there, right? And so we can kind of base our needs off of that. Next up is the psychographical segmentation. Now, the psychographical really talks about the personalities, the values, attitudes of that specific segment, their hobbies, interests, and so on. So, thinking back on this audience, we might think, okay, if they're in the Pacific Northwest, they probably like longboarding, they probably, outdoor hiking, that kind of stuff. They're pretty laid back, chill, but at the same time, they want to be fashion forward. It gives us a little bit more ideas on kind of how to segment out that audience. Okay, next up is your demographic. Now, demographics are the ones that we typically talk the most about, and most people kind of think that's how we segment out an audience, is just by looking at the demographics. That's not true at all. The demographic is, just one section of a segmentation. This is where we kind of go down to the numbers. We think of age, gender, income, education, religion, language, ethnicity, and then household. Household talks about, like, are they married? Do they have kids? How big of kids do they have? And so on. These are very generally most talked about because they're a little bit easier to quantify rather than being more like more an idea or quality rather than quantification. Okay, so that's the demographic, and then finally the last one is behavioral. Behavioral really talks about, so we think of the audience, we think of the psychographical, demographics, and geographics, and then we think, okay, behavioral based off of that. What's the benefits? What does this brand have, or does the audience have a degree of loyalty to the brand? Rate of use, how often are they using this brand or engaging with the brand, and so on. So looking at the sunglasses, this is kind of what we came up with for the general segmentation of this audience. We look at the geographic West Coast, Portland, Oregon, seasonally sunny, psychographical, they're hipsters, trendy styles, they like the outdoors, they like hiking, rock climbing, Oregon Beach, Haystack Rock, longboarding, surfing, they're foodie, and so on. The demographics, 25 to 40, male, female, 30,000 to 50,000, an undefined religion, English speaking, single, or young families. And then behavioral, they like uniqueness. They like sunglasses, they're a fan of Ray-Bans. Okay, so what's interesting is, after I kind of came up with this, and this design style for these sunglasses was actually a concept first, and then like a year later they actually came out with them, and they're limited edition, and this is the ads that they kind of ran for these sunglasses. Now as we look at this, does it fit our overall segmentation? 25 to 40, 30,000 to 50,000, trendy hipsters outdoor. Yeah, like this totally fits along that style. And so when we look at them, they've kind of nailed down this segment for the specific Ray-Bans. And then they've gone and they've reflected that segment with the photography, the design, the style of these ads. We look at it again here. Beat the crowd, special edition combinations won't last long. Clubmaster styles are only available for 3 more days. They're driving a sense of urgency. We talked about how this company likes uniqueness, or the segment likes uniqueness, and they've really kind of gone after that with not only the style, how they've designed, what imagery they're using, even the filter on the image itself kind of speaks to that audience, but then with the text and the copy, and then the plan behind it, they're also speaking to that segment as well. So that's what I want you guys to do for the segmentation ideas. The segmentation ideas is really about exploring ideas using the 4 segmentations: geographical, psychographical, demographics, and behavioral segmentation categories, and then being able to kind of go through and think about the audience and get as specific as you possibly can. If we only write a few things per each one, this example right here, this is probably too little on what we need to write out for the kind of segmentation. So go through that. You're going to come up with ideas. After you come up with the ideas by Wednesday, you're going to come up with a plan. You're going to test your ideas within the Facebook Ads Manager or whatever ads manager that will give you numbers to explain like how many people actually fit within that category. You're going to write down the segmentation you're going to be using, and then you're going to include how many people. You're literally going to write it out and say, okay, if I were to say for these Ray-Bans, we're looking at, let's say we're going to look up, well, longboarding, right? We can literally type in longboarding in the Facebook Ads Manager, and then it'll give us a number on how to find that that segment. Well, it'll give us a number of how many people like that segment, that specific kind of qualification. There we go. I can talk today, I promise. So that's basically the difference between the two. One, the ideas, you're going to come up with the ideas behind it. And then two, they're going to come up, you're going to write down the specific things associated with it. Right now, I'm going to show you the Ads Manager. All right, guys, so here we are in Facebook, the Ads Manager. Now, in iLearn, actually, under the project description, that kind of stuff, you're going to find a video, not created by me, but it's a pretty good video that explains the Ads Manager pretty decently, and it goes through kind of all the options. I highly recommend that, to watch that video. To run ads on Instagram, you're going to have to do it through the Facebook Ads Manager because Instagram owns Facebook, or excuse me, Facebook owns Instagram. You know, and Twitter's a lot like this and is very similar. There's another video on that one. I'm trying to think of the other videos that I also have on the paid ads. So I have Facebook, Instagram, and Facebook, Twitter, and then Pinterest. So there's some videos on each one of those. If you're doing Pinterest, you're probably going to experience a little bit of problem running the ads. They just tend to like a lot of money. So for example, if you find those ads on Pinterest that scroll and move as you're not scroll, but move as you scroll. You know, when I was at Cabela's, we wanted to do a few of those, and actually Cabela's did really, really well running ads on Pinterest. It was quite surprising, and we got a pretty high ROI off of it because it's more about, you know, pinning ideas and then getting them to kind of buy it, and then you know, our audience wasn't guys, it was girls on there, but it was more like you know, gift ideas for their husband kind of thing. Anyways, when we wanted to run a few of those moving ads, they wanted to charge us $50,000 to get that off the ground and running it, and just for one ad, and that wasn't including any like paper and impressions or anything like that. So here we are in Facebook. Sorry, I got distracted. We come down, you know, off to the left hand side, we can see create, and we can click on add. If you Google Facebook Ads Manager, you'll be able to find the link as well. But basically, it brings us in here to the Ads Manager itself. And it links to whatever pages that you have. If you don't have a page in Facebook, then you need to create a page in Facebook. So this is what I want you guys to go through. Generally, running through the Ads Manager is better than like clicking the boost button, because the boost button, I mean, there's ways to get there, but it's kind of hidden. All of the different segmentation ability that it provides. That's where going through the Ads Manager is going to be way better. Excuse me. Okay, so once we're in here, we can see, you know, some navigation off the left-hand side. We can see some stuff in the middle. This is basically where we're going to decide, okay, what's the goal of my campaign? Brand awareness is one, reach is one, engagement one. These are probably going to be the three. You know, you could drive traffic. Video views is another. If you have some videos out there, which you guys all have possibly, you can drive more video views and so on. So let's say if we click brand awareness, right down here it asks us to put in the brand campaign name. You know, this is where we kind of identify it. If we clicked on engagement though, it changes it up to like, okay, do I want post engagement? Do I want page likes, event responses, and so on? So depending on kind of what you click, it could change some of the stuff that's down here. You know, we also have A/B testing and that kind of stuff, which is another, like, honestly, guys, this is like a brief overview. We just got done with the video project, which was a brief overview of video. We could spend a lot of time on the ads options in the social media kind of sphere, because there's getting more and more capabilities, more and more options, and it just more and more, yeah, possibilities kind of thing. So we're just going to do brand awareness right now. Click on this one. I'll just set up a new ad. I won't even name it. This is, where we put in some other information. And I'll let you guys figure that out or watch the other video. And then this is where we start getting into the placements and then our audience segmentation side. This is where we can talk about, okay, in general, it starts us off with the United States. It sets us with an age, sets us with gender, and then it gives us an idea about basically the potential reach of how many people fit within the segmentation that we set up. I know, like, you could run the entire United States. Generally, as I understand it, when we get to the things that say more specific or more broad, this is where price gets to be more expensive when we get into this red or yellow ranges. Within the green, and as we get kind of more, you're paying based off of kind of the competition that's going to happen. So I like to keep it in the green. I like to either go more towards the specific and more towards the broad side, but generally specific I like a lot more. And I'm going to ask you guys to kind of do that for this project, is run more on the specific side of things, because you're getting a little bit more specific with your segmentation. When we run broad, it's like kind of shotgun, right? You see a bunch of, obviously this analogy worked at Cabela's, the shotgun approach. If you see a bunch of geese flying up above and you just kind of point and hope to hit someone, you're not going to always hit. You got to aim, you got to, understand what's happening and then go for a specific one, and then you have a higher success rate. That's what you guys need to do for this ad. You're going to be graded on how well your segmentation is done, and so the more specific you are, the better grade you're going to get on your segmentation kind of side of the grade. Okay, so we jump in here. We can create a new audience. So like this is where you guys can create audiences from the past, use the saved audience and so on. So we're going to create a new one. We would name it and that kind of stuff. And by the end, when we save it out, it'll allow us to save it for later, which is it's what you're going to want to do as you guys are doing the plan. Because then next week, when you're doing the actual final product and putting your ads together, you can just reuse what audience you've already had done, and then you don't have to go through it all again. Okay, so we jump in here. I don't want to do United States. I want to do, let's say I'm going to jump into, let's just go Rexburg, because that's where I'm at. Rexburg, Idaho. So I want to include Rexburg, Idaho. Now it gives us other options like, okay, I can do a 25-mile radius. I want to do a 50-mile radius, whatever it might be. Based off of it, okay, 200,000 people. Let's say we drop this down to 25 again. We see that drop down to 120,000. So I want to write down, okay, Rexburg is 120,000. Let's say, though, I also wanted to include Provo, Utah, right? We can add Provo, Utah to this, and then we can, let's say we get a little bit more specific on the 10-mile radius of Provo. That was that was Rexburg. Okay, so we jump back up, and then we get into the 10-mile radius on Provo, because that's include Orem and a little bit south of it. It kind of changes our potential reach. So every time we change, you're going to want to write down the estimation per each one. Okay. We can also exclude locations. We can include locations. So like, let's say if I was doing that 50-mile radius of Rexburg, but I wanted to exclude Idaho Falls for some reason, then I could exclude specifically a 10-mile radius around Idaho Falls. So that's some of the stuff there. I want to change my age range. 18 to 65 is massive. I want to go a little bit more specific. 18 to 25 and so on. Actually, we're going to change this up to be, let's do Portland, Oregon, because that's what we were talking about with the other thing. So Portland, Oregon. Let's do a little bit further. a 35-mile radius and so on. And then we can see, okay, we're reaching 370,000 people in the Pacific Northwest. We want to do 18 to 25-year-olds all, and then we can get in and we can start talking about languages, right? And we identified English as one of them. And, we can get in here as well. And, we can exclude things in this kind of area as well. So this is where our detailed targeting kind of comes into play, where we can go in and we can say, okay, they like longboarding, right? Okay, so longboarding is an option. If we hover over this in Facebook, it gives us the actual size of the specific audience. We wanted to add other things like Haystack Rock. Haystack Rock. I don't know how to spell Haystack Rock. Let's do Cannon Beach. No, there's nothing there. So we kind of have to. This is where what I want you guys to go through is, think on the Oregon coast. There's one. Okay, so you're gonna think on like kind of how can we define it. This is where we test our ideas, and then we're able to kind of segment it out accordingly. That's basically what you guys are going to want to do for your segmentation plan, is to get in here and kind of identify all these things, write it down, and then submit it on Saturday to iLearn with the other stuff that's required. Let me know if you have any questions. Also, by the way, as you notice, like we're down to 91,000 people. We're kind of getting more on the specific side. We're not as broad, and it's bringing us back that way. So that's what I want you guys to do. Let me know if you have any questions. Good luck on this project. Honestly, it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to see how well and successful it helps you kind of expand your area of influence.